Hi, welcome to Point Blank. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Melissa. And today we will be touching on a relatively not really touched on social issue, dating violence. Now, last Saturday, the Centre for Promoting Alternatives to Violence and NTU jointly launched Dating Violence Awareness Week. So, in our studio here tonight, we have...
Mrs. Xia King Yao, also a senior social worker at PAVE as well.
And we have Dr. Carol Bell Hatchett, Director of Youth Services at Singapore Children's Society.
That's right. So,
yes. Before we start, let's give our viewers a better picture of what is dating violence. And just take a look
at this video.
It takes a while before a victim of dating violence puts the pieces together to realize the big picture. He or she needs help. Many suffer in silence because they are inexperienced in romantic relationships and lack guidance.
Many social workers will share that dating violence, if not recognized and managed, has the potential of continuing and escalating to spousal violence later. Most people still define violence in terms of physical hurt against the victims. However, we know that is not true. Interpersonal violence, be it in a marital relationship or in a dating relationship, includes emotional, psychological, and even sexual abuse. These latter forms of violence are often overlooked.
What Dr. Maliki says holds true. Shocking statistics from a survey conducted by the International Dating Violence Research Consortium reveal that 22.7%, or about 1 in 5 university students here, had physically assaulted a dating partner over a year. Another survey by PAVE and NTU showed that when it came to awareness of dating violence, 52.23% had not even heard of dating violence, but 32.7%, or a third of them, said they knew of someone who could be a victim. So what is dating violence? Well, according to PAVE, it's when a partner uses force or pressure to abuse the other partner sexually, physically, or psychologically in a dating relationship. Identifying date violence is already a problem, but the knowing where to reach out for professional help seems to be an even bigger headache. Again, blame it on lack of awareness. When it came to seeking help, 97.7% said they would turn to friends for help, while 47% said they would turn to family for help. But a mere 4.71% said they would turn to social workers for help. And it's no wonder if a whopping 84% did not know of any helplines of counselling services. Dr. Maliki's advice:
if you think your friend is confusing love with abuse, remind him or her of the typical signs of dating violence. If someone you know has a tendency to be obsessively jealous, over-controlling, and/or uses aggression in resolving relationship problems, be his or her link to the social services, such as PAVE.
Friends may be the first to turn to for a lifeline, but how many of them actually know how to give the correct support and guidance?
Yes, welcome back. As you can see, we have a new guest.
Yes. It's Priscilla Lee. Yes, and you came here with us to join us here to share your story as well. She's a friend of a victim of dating violence. So, okay.
That's right. I mean, after watching
the video, I mean, since you just joined us. But so if you don't know the other two guests, this is Mrs. Xia King Yao from PAVE and Dr. Carol Bell Hatchett from Singapore Children's Society. So you both just saw the clip there. So what do you think about the statistics? I mean, we were quite shocked. So do you have anything to say?
The level of awareness is not as...
I think there are a lot more cases than what would have been revealed, because a lot of people are unaware that they are caught in such a situation, because dating violence or date rape is a situation whereby mostly teenagers and young people, they put themselves in a situation unintentionally, you know, and most of the incidences happen after a party, after a social gathering, after a social activity, whereby the victim is, you know, after enjoying yourself at this party, the victim then goes along with the perpetrator, not knowing that that's a perpetrator, because the perpetrator is not a stranger. The perpetrator is someone you're familiar with, and you go along. You happen to like this guy, and generally, even though there are male victims, there are more than 50% that are females. They go along with this guy, and then you enjoy the person's company, and you like the person, and you say, "Oh, well, so attractive guy, I must go along," and you go along, and then somehow you are suddenly placed in this situation whereby the perpetrator is taking advantage of you, and initially you like the attention, you like the you kiss, and you know, and before too long you are then the perpetrator is forcing himself on you, and the question in your mind is, did I place myself in that situation? Am I to blame? Am I part of this? Did I initiate it? So there is all this situation, and when it finally happens, you walk away and you think, maybe I'm not really a victim, because after all, I started it. So, but you are a victim as long as you do not say, you say no, and the person ignores that no.
But I think the other thing is that when people usually are not aware of that they're in the dating violence, is because love and abuse is a thin line.
Absolutely.
Okay? And especially when a boyfriend is very controlling, and there's a lot of jealousy, and they show that, of course, is, I loved you, I want to be where you are, so wherever you go, I want to go. And so in the initial, you love that kind of attention. You think, wow, my boyfriend is so loving, so caring. But after a while, as it seeps in, what are you doing? Why are you talking to that guy? And you know, all sorts of things that comes in. And so then that's where then they realize that something is wrong. But some people may still not know that this is something is wrong, that there's this abusive sort of tendency, or what we call signs, that there's all these warning signs that there's a dating violence coming up. Right? So I think this is the part that usually people confuse.
But in most of the cases that you've seen, is this the usual scenario? They start off, you know, like the boyfriend's treating the girls really nice, and then you see a different side of them. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sort of behavior. Or is it, some people say they knew that they were already getting into a bad relationship right from the start? Is that?
I would not think that it's always the reverse. I think it's always the man. In fact, in a lot of our dating relationships or violence relationships, or even spousal violence cases, we see the men generally are very gentlemen. Okay, they are actually very charming,
and they look very normal.
Yes. Okay.
The thing is, they look normal, and nobody looks like a monster. It's actually this hidden Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde that comes with triggers, and suddenly you see a monster before you, but before too long you've already been abused.
Priscilla, do you have anything to add to that? I mean,
yeah,
you can
it's
relate.
true. Like my friend, he's actually a guy, so like the thing about dating violence, like, I feel that it's not gender biased. Like both men and women can be victims. Yeah, so my friend was in a relationship for a really long time, and you know, they got together in secondary school, and then for the first few years it was fine, like everything was lovely, and you know, it was like first love and all that. But slowly she began to monitor his movements, started calling him constantly to check where he was, and she needed to know like where he was, what time he'll be back, who is he hanging out with, and then like at that stage he could still rationalize and say maybe it's because she cares about me and that's why she's doing this. But then slowly it gave way to like physical violence when she started hitting him in public, and and she wasn't embarrassed. Like all she cared about was humiliating him in public. So it prolonged for like it went on for a really long time, because she'll always apologize and she'll treat him very nicely. So then the cycle continues. Like after a while she'll change, and then she'll be the same person again.
I think that's very similar to family violence too, you know. The perpetrator will apologize, be very sympathetic, and then the victim will say, oh, okay, maybe he'll change. He'll change. Maybe I can help him change. Things will get better. But things never get better. A year pass, 2 years pass, especially in marital violence. Things doesn't change, and it just gets worse.
But in the story about your friend, did he ever feel like that he could change, and that's why he kind of stuck on.
He did. Like every time they will sit down and she'll cry and she'll say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, you know, I did it because I love you a lot and I'm afraid to lose you. So it's all these excuses, and he tends to internalize them, and then when he tells friends about like incidents, he'll be like, yeah, maybe it's because she really loves me. Like he makes excuses for her, and then it's like dangerous because then it goes on and then she gets away with more and more.
What's the psychology
the wrong
behind
message?
What do you think is the psychology behind this behavior, like sort of, you know, staying in the relationship? And
Because there is, you see, in a relationship where the victim feels that there is love, there is also hope. So the hope that tomorrow will be different, tomorrow will get better. And as far as the perpetrator is concerned, the perpetrator also needs help, you know, in the situation such as this. The perpetrator will also feel that I need to stay in this relationship because she is so patient, she loves me. And so is this what I call false love, you know, that seem to bind them in this vicious cycle that goes on and on and on until one day someone wakes up and say, no, I can't take this anymore. It has to stop.
is that the same thing that happened to your friend? What was the sort of final straw that, you know?
Well, the thing is that he's been breaking up, and then he broke up with her several times, but he'll always go back to her. Like, they always patch back again after they have conversations. Like, she'll call him and say, I'm really sorry, take me back, I'll change, you know, things will be better the next time, I promise. And then he'll take her back, and then it'll happen again and again. But the final time, like, he's broken up with her for good for now. It was when she like got angry, like as usual, and she started screaming at him in front of his own friends, like she attempted to hit him and stuff in front of all his friends, and she always does that, and she doesn't feel remorse like at that spot, like she doesn't feel embarrassed for herself. All she cares is
she's just overwhelmed by the emotions.
So I guess what
of
we
hanging
always
on.
say, this are what just now Pri say is a cycle of violence, where usually there's a tension building stage where they argue, and then there's a lot of resentment coming up, and anger escalates, and then that's what we call the explosion. And that's where they hit, they threats, or they use verbal language to put down somebody. Then after which they go into a very remorseful period, or we say honeymoon period, because then they will feel that they are very sorry, and so they will say, please forgive me, I will change. I will promise to change. And then the love, presents, gifts, flowers, and a lot of promises will come in. And that's where I think what Carol's saying is a love and hope, because there's always this hope that things will be different.
But is it always like the two extremes? It always seems to be like from you know, articles I've read, and it's always extreme acts of remorse following. It's never, you know.
Okay, I think in this cycle it started with a lot of remorse, and the remorse is usually the first time is usually truly remorseful. But usually that's why we say the honeymoon period for the early relationship is usually longer. But as the cycle goes on, the intensity and the severity increases. And then the honeymoon shortens. And then after a while, even in our spousal abuse cases, we don't even see honeymoon, because then they don't apologize anymore. And end up, what do they say? You asked for it. Okay? So they begin then now to turn over and blame the partner and says, you asked for it.
You are all responsible. You're responsible for the beatings.
That's why I'm hitting you.
But the concern is the gratification that this couple feel, you know, there is this intensity of emotions after the beating up. You know, there's an intensity of emotional remorse which the perpetrator is showing, which then the victim feels, you know, it's an incredible feeling. And then the victim also have a pity, like maybe this will not happen tomorrow, and it gives the perpetrator also a feeling like, okay, I'm not that bad, you know, I'm not that bad, I'm a good person, she started it, you know. So it can be addictive to both of them.
And I think one of the guys said very truly is that he says, after a while, fighting becomes a solution and no more talking. All right. So I guess it becomes a pattern, and that's why abusive behavior happens in a pattern, and it becomes a solution because then they think that it works. Okay. And the working is always for short term, because when I scold, I told you not to nag anymore, and you're nagging, and I give you a tight slap. And after a week, the lady doesn't nag. Okay, it works. Okay, and so to them, it becomes a solution sometimes too.
Okay. I guess. I'm saying I guess a lot of these victims actually, if they confide at all, they confide in their friends, and I mean. And I guess a lot of friends, how should friends actually help? You know, they don't, I spoke to some people and they actually mentioned they don't know where they can or how they can help these victims.
I think last year Body Shop did a launch with us, and I think they did a survey, and it shows that 60% of women, if they're faced with domestic violence, will usually turn to their friends for help, okay, first, opposed to families and authorities. And so I think a friend is a very powerful thing. They can be ambassadors for us, meaning that if you know where to seek help, you will give a listening ear to your friend. Trust and believe what she says, because sometimes we can give a very judgmental look and sarcastic look and say, no, are you sure that guy is so charming, you think he can be actually be abusive? So I think that believing the person is important, and then I think giving the numbers for some agencies, or if not, even just listening and says, okay, if there's anything happen, call me. And then at least the friend can also activate the police. So I think all kinds of this kind of help a friend can do.
A network of support helps the victim actually. Network of support.
Priscilla, I mean, for your friend, I mean, he said you were scolded in front of all his friends as well, so they obviously knew what was going on.
Correct.
How did they help him, or how did you help him?
Okay. Well, at first, when he confided in me, he actually told me that he has already spoke to some of his friends, and the thing is that what they told him was that to just like straightforwardly, they just told him, just break up with her. What's the point? Like, she's hitting you. There's nothing else to think about. Just break up with her. And for him, it was difficult to do so because they weren't taking into consideration the fact that, you know, it's such a long relationship. He still has feelings for her. You know, he still doesn't want to leave her and hurt her. So like, but his friends. Like, what he felt was that his friends were judging him, like, for being abused by a girl, or, you know, or why can't you stand up for yourself and all that. So he didn't feel that his friends were understanding in that aspect. So, like, he sort of turned to me and he wanted me to, like, empathize with him, like, to understand how difficult it was, and, like, hopefully that I could be supportive instead of judging him or, you know, telling him what to do. Instead, I could just be a listening ear and, you know, like, help instead of just directing him.
Okay, we got to go for a quick break. But when we come back, we'll continue discussing friends as a lifeline in dating violence.
Yep. So we'll be right back.
Yep.